back. It's Jeff and Jamie and Talan. He's back with us again, which we're really excited about. And today is a very, very special day, isn't it?
It's an awesome
Great day.
Great day.
It's a day we've been waiting for a very, very long time.
It seems like it was forever ago that we started writing the manuscript for Streaking. And forever ago was what? Well, it's been in process probably for 3 years, I think, the manuscript. Yes. And today, and then we signed with a publisher a year ago. And today, the book is released.
Best day ever.
Yeah, absolutely awesome. We're so excited.
And it's such a better book than it was 3 years ago.
Oh my goodness. I was talking to one of my friends, Craig is awesome. He put up with some of the early drafts of the book and they were awful.
They were really, I was telling
Talan,
you
did you ever get an early draft of the book?
I only got the transcript, or not the transcript,
You got
copy.
the e-copy, the PDF
the
beforehand.
PDF file.
Post-editing copy of
which
it.
was great.
Yeah.
And from where, I don't know what it was before, but what it is now, it's
was
incredible.
Something very different.
And we're going to talk a little bit about that, about how the book changed. I mean, we mentioned on the last podcast, but how that changed some of the things that, even though we had a conversation and everything else, and you've talked about this before too,
I
Jamie.
have, because I've had people that I've been talking about with from the beginning, and then they just, like, they got an advanced copy of the book and they just finished it. People I'm really close to that I've been kind of on this journey, I've brought them along with me, and she read the book and she's like, oh my gosh, I totally get it now. And I'm like, I've been talking about this for months.
How did you
not get it before? But there's something about putting it all together. I think my favorite thing about the way that the book finally ended up being written that I really like, because we tried a couple different ways of doing it.
Oh yeah.
And the way that it finally ended up is literally kind of walking the reader through the same journey that we went through.
With a little bit of foreshadowing.
With a little bit of foreshadowing. Because we knew where we were going to end up a little bit. We had learned some, we'd learned the laws, but at the time that the things that we went through that taught us what we were going to eventually write about, that's kind of how we wrote it. And so it's going on this journey. And then as people are brought along on the journey, they have the same feeling of discovery that I felt like we had.
Yeah, I think so. Would you say that, Talan? I mean, is that kind of how you felt? We'll go a little bit into it right now. What do you think?
I think what I like the most about streaking is it's so familiar to what we're familiar with winning streaks, but we haven't ever implemented that into our own life.
Right.
Yeah. But what I like about it is you really did uncover this mystery of what do we call this ambiguous term in our life.
Yeah.
Right.
It's the missing link between habit and goal.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's a streak, creating a streak in your life. And so from reading the book, I was like, this makes complete sense. Like, I talked with you and I understood some concepts, but when I read the book, I was like, yep, this is big.
This is where it all came together.
Yeah. I was like, I love this idea.
And you have to almost read the whole book.
Yeah.
I mean, really, you do. You can't read just like the first 2 or 3 chapters. That'll
In
give
fact,
you a flavor.
I can tell people who've only read the first few chapters, because they'll make a comment about something. I'll be like, oh, you're in chapter 3, because they're in that place in the journey.
Yeah.
And so as you get further along into it, I mean, even till the very end, when you get to the frequently asked questions, because that's a lot of the stuff that we got asked a lot, but wasn't necessarily something that could be an entire chapter written on. But it was
really
a lot
pull
of.
It out. You couldn't say like some of the things like a do versus a don't streak. I mean, that's in the FAQ, but we couldn't really delineate that anywhere in the book per se.
No, but that was a significant part of our journey. We tried don't streaks, and we're like, they don't work.
They don't work.
And then we asked the question, well, why? Why does a don't streak not work?
Yeah.
And then we came up with
all kinds of things. Anyway, we are really excited. Now, there's something else that got released today too, Talan.
The app.
The app.
Which is my second
so
to the book.
It can be your favorite. It's okay. It's my favorite
too.
Because the hardest thing for me is before the app was recording what I was doing and figuring out a way where I was accurate with how long I've been doing it. And I am not that fluent with Excel spreadsheets as Jeff. So his whole Excel thing, I just had to go on my notes. But once the app came out, it changed everything. I
have to tell you a story about recording. This was before we ever did streaks.
Yeah.
This was back when I was pregnant with child 5 or 6.
And if you're just now listening to us, if this is the first podcast that you've been on with us, we've had 7 children. So
7 children.
Which child was this?
Child 5 or 6.
Okay. We get lost in there somewhere.
I was trying.
And the next question I always get asked, did she have all of those? And the answer is yes, she had them all.
One at a time.
One at a time.
Yeah. I wanted double. I wanted a 2-for-1, but never got it.
Never got it.
Anyway, I was having, I was in a pregnancy. And I was
I don't
to
think
the
Talan
point.
knows what to think right now.
I know, we've gone to pregnancy.
I was
He's
trying not to
gonna
laugh
be
into the
able to.
microphone.
He's not going to be able to comment on this. Okay,
All right.
it's relevant though. Just give me a
Okay.
second.
All right, go.
So I was on child 5 or 6, and by child 5 or 6, you're deeply concerned about the weight that you put on staying on. So I wanted to continue taking. I had read this thing that if you take 10,000 steps a day, that you can maintain your weight.
While pregnant, or
I just assumed that I was while pregnant. It's
Okay.
about 3 miles, I think,
Yeah,
is
I don't
about
know.
what 10,000 steps a
I
day.
mean, obviously you'd be gaining baby weight.
Right,
but-
you'll gain baby weight, but I was trying to stay,
Yeah.
as healthy as I could during the pregnancy. And so I was keeping a record of my steps, how
Yeah.
many steps I took every day, because I had one of those little pedometers.
Mm-hmm.
And I had an Excel spreadsheet that you had printed out, and each day I would write down the number of steps that I had taken. And after about, it was 4 or 5 months that I'd been keeping track of this,
Yeah.
something happened to that sheet. It was, by now it was
I
3
remember.
sheets stapled together.
Yeah.
And I had literally written down every day the number of steps that I had
And
taken.
Talan, by the way, when this happened, just know that, because you just got married,
Yeah,
no children yet.
not yet.
When your wife is pregnant, if you guys decide
Are
to
you
have
really going
children,
to say this on the air? You're going to say
they
something
get
about a
very
pregnant woman?
emotional.
Yes. That's
So the heightened emotions led to this.
I to this day, I think like it fell behind my dresser or something. I cried for like 3 days solid because I could not replicate that record. I could not, and I knew I had done it, but I didn't know how many days I had done it. I didn't know how many steps I had taken. I kind of had in my head, at the end of this pregnancy, I'll have taken this number of steps and I'll have walked this many miles or something like that. It was all in that record.
Yeah, every last bit
So
of
when
it.
you say, I wasn't quite sure how to keep a record, and that is the biggest challenge when we started doing this, is I had that in my head.
Yeah,
That time when I lost that record, I'm like,
I do not want
I
to lose this
cannot
record.
lose this. I can't go
Now-
through that emotional stress again. I can't do it.
What's interesting is we found it. Remember,
We
found
did.
it, and you were so excited that we had found
I
it
saved, I'm like, this is going in my journal.
because she had taken 1,178,000 steps.
You do not remember how many I had taken,
I
but I
just-
had taken a
do.
lot.
And the reason I remember is because 1,178,000 steps was quite a bit. Wow.
I was proud of that. But
Yeah.
that record becomes, like you said, it becomes the life of the streak. It becomes like the tangible, this is
It's
what
an
I've
example
done.
of your hard work.
Yes.
It's-
So,
shows
like
the
for
number of your hard
example,
work.
how did you feel? Because you're a beta tester and even an alpha tester. I mean, you were alpha testing, so you started to keep track, Talan. And how did that feel when we had a couple of glitches? I mean, because in alpha and beta testing, we have glitches. No
Well, and
matter
you
what.
wanted the app to work, and so we were like, oh, it's gonna work. And sometimes we didn't have the backup.
Yeah,
Did you had one time where you didn't have a
3 times where it's lost.
Oh.
But I had a number, my start date. So
Okay.
but when doing that, I was like, I know this is testing the app. It's just the alpha version. It's just the beta version.
Right.
I'm gonna write down what day I start, so I can at least count to what I'm
count to
at
where
now.
I was. That was smart.
And it took a little bit to get to some of the streaks, but yeah. It was heartbreaking when you
Yes.
lose that.
When you lose it, you're like,
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
Oh man! Is
but
it
now it is solid.
Yeah.
solid? Well, so here's I was going to say here's how solid it is. I have not kept track in my Excel sheet, which I rely on. I mean, I
Yeah.
mean, that is the thing that I track.
That is the
I don't
record.
do it anymore. I use just the app, and it is absolutely so nice to have. Some of the features that they added, and if you're going to and downloading the app, know that first of all, it's really you sign up for a Streaking Mastery subscription, and then that allows you to use to have everything show up in the app. The app is really just a support of Streaking Mastery, your Streaking Mastery subscription, which you can go to www.streakingmastery.com to subscribe. And it's great subscription. It's $3 a month. It's, I mean, worth every, don't you think?
So worth it.
I
Like
mean-
I would pay more for it because I have streaks that are long and I don't want to lose those.
don't want to
Right.
lose them.
And that to me,
It keeps that record
it's
for you.
that number, that $3 a month is how much I'm willing to put forth to growth,
Oh yeah.
and I want to grow.
And it really does. It becomes priceless. I mean, I know for me, it's just one of those things where I look at it, I'm like, no problem, I'll pay this because of the things that I'm becoming through keeping track of these things. Anyway, so
That's our introduction.
what's that?
You know how we're like, this is our little recap of where we are. That was our 10-minute recap of where we are.
That was a 10-minute recap, but that brought, well, and it is an exciting day because, I mean, to have the book released, the app released. I mean, you've been working, Talan, on the social marketing for this for, I mean,
it's just a good
huge
day.
amounts of time.
I cannot believe we're here. Like, this is the day.
This is
Right.
it.
So this is it. So it's just awesome. And speaking of our social marketing channels, so one of the things that Jamie and I, we knew that we had no prowess.
You don't even have a Facebook page.
No, I don't.
So obviously we're not the social media
We're not there.
gurus
You have a
that we
Facebook
need.
page that you've updated when?
I don't know.
So we knew, and we're going to talk about how, as far as how we got to this with Talan, but we knew that Talan, when we met him, and we learned what it was that he was doing, and also because you had been following him, that we needed to bring you on as a social media, the guy.
And I wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah.
That's the thing is I wanted to be in on this because I think this is the greatest concept. It's going to change how people view growth forever.
That's a pretty big statement right there.
I do. I really do think we confuse habits and we sometimes chalk them up to being more that they are. Mm-hmm. And it's because we have never been familiar with streaks.
Yeah.
Streaks is going to change how people grow forever.
I'm just going to pause on that.
I know.
I kind of have a
like,
little bit of hair standing up on the end of my arm there because it has for us. I mean, the reason why that sounds true is Talan, you've had that experience. Jamie, you've had that experience. I've had that.
We've all tested it.
Yes.
Right.
We've tested it, and we know that because of the things we've experienced, it's true.
Yeah. So with that being said, let's go into this just a little bit more. When we left off, you were in Hawaii, swinging in a hammock, and then on your way to
Fiji.
Fiji.
Made it to Fiji. Yeah.
And so from Hawaii to Fiji, walk us through what happened now. I mean, your career started to take off in videography.
Yeah. So I'd come back from these trips and I'd be in school, and so. You see,
how did you not quit school and just do
believe
this
me,
full-time?
I almost did multiple times. It was only because my mother.
Your mom's like,
saying,
you're not.
Please just stay in. And so I stayed in
school.
I had a scholarship, so it wasn't a financial risk.
Okay.
If it would have been a financial risk, I don't know if I would have made the same decision.
Okay.
But I did stay in school. So every time I come back from these trips, or I'd be going to classes. I'd be a normal college kid.
Yeah.
And so I'd start reaching out to different clients. And most of the time from these trips, I would then be contacted. I didn't have to reach out anymore.
Okay.
Or people would refer me to other people. So I didn't really have to do my own marketing from then on.
That's awesome.
Which I didn't have enough time to do any more videos than I was doing, which was really nice.
Right. You had just that amount of time.
You have the time to do the videos for the clients, nothing marketing, nothing promo.
So from that, I had people reach out to me. So I filmed in Cuba, Vietnam, Iceland, Tahiti, and Bali after Fiji.
Wow.
All with different companies?
Different
same company?
companies.
What was it?
So Cuba was for a nonprofit. They bring skating and skateboards to at-risk youth in Cuba.
So was that a trade or did you actually get paid?
That was a trade as well. I wanted to go to Cuba. Most of these trips, I wanted to go to these places. And I did other client videos in the States that would pay for other things. But I wanted to see the world. That was my one thing. And so if these smaller companies needed somebody, I would love to help for an exchange for an experience.
Which goes to, so just weaving in a little bit of streaking, I want to be a world traveler. Mm-hmm. You know, if you want to be a world traveler, then you do things that are necessary to be a world traveler. And you, for example, we're looking at video, or we're doing video and making those trades. Mm-hmm. I think it's so key to know who you want to be. You know, and sometimes that starts very broad and then you narrow it down. And sometimes it can be very narrow. Like I want to be a professional videographer. I want to be, I want to be able to document and record life in a very good way. Something like that. Anyway.
Yeah.
I also feel like the who you want to be is kind of a journey as well. You start off with one thing and you may explore it for a while and be like, okay, that's been fun, but I don't know that's exactly what I want to be.
Right.
And it gives you the latitude to grow and change as you're growing and changing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And to me, it was more important to have these experiences while I could.
Right.
At a time, like I'm in college, I don't have a family yet. Like this is the time.
Yeah.
If I'm going to see the world and experience these things that I can sleep on the floor of a hut or to live out of my car and sleep in a hammock. Like these are the only times that I realized I'd be able to do these. So it was worth it to exchange for my talent.
Yes.
To be able to do these very,
And then
abnormal
you got
things.
to go to those places, but in the process, they're also growing that talent and
exactly.
filming in places that you wouldn't have the opportunity to.
So
have
growing
filmed
my
otherwise.
talent, growing my portfolio, and then having these experiences. So it was worth it to me that only one trip out of all these, the second Fiji trip was paid.
Was paid for.
Everything
Really?
else was exchanged.
Everything
Now
else
tell
was
us a little bit
exchanged.
about that one. How do you get on a private jet? I mean, was that pretty cool, or was it?
It was a seaplane jet. So to get to, it was the Yasawa island chain. And to get there, the only way is either you take a long boat ride or you take a 20-minute jet ride. So you take off on the ocean, land on the ocean. A boat comes and picks you up
Wow.
and takes you to this private island where
Wow.
you have this
Wow.
bungalow that's beachfront. So it was unreal.
I bet.
And I will never live like this. like it was something that I think very few people
Have the chance to
to do. And
experience.
so I felt really blessed to have that.
Yeah,
that
no
opportunity.
kidding. That is so amazing. And so from that, now what was the rest of the places that you went?
So Cuba, that was for the skateboarding. So
Okay.
I filmed that, did that over Christmas. Vietnam. So I was filming for 4 different clients, and it was 4 different clients in Vietnam for a week and a half.
Okay.
And that was an incredible country. Iceland, my favorite country of all time.
Really? How come?
The diverse land, and I'm an outdoor enthusiast.
Okay.
I like being outdoors. So the hiking and the
But we
different
have
things
learned that
can
you
do.
don't like spiders.
I can put up with
He
them, but I
deals
don't
with
love them. Spiders here in Georgia are something else.
There's just it's the volume.
It's the volume.
But Iceland is every 10 minutes the landscape changes.
Wow.
You go
Really?
from volcanic rock everywhere to green fields, from moss growing on the volcanic rock to waterfalls that are.
Okay, so have you seen the show, The Sweet Life of Walter Mitty?
Yeah.
Yes, that's what inspired our trip to go there.
Is it
Okay.
really?
Yeah, so we went
we
to
love that show.
It's incredible.
Because of that.
Because of
the
that
filming
landscape.
of
Yeah, I mean the
Iceland.
filming and
Yeah.
everything that went.
So
place
we
there.
went to different places that they had on set and where they longboard down.
Really, you
yeah.
went to that?
Yeah, so we went to a lot of these places that we saw in the movie and wanted to explore. And that's, out of all these places, that's my number one I want to get back to.
Okay.
Okay.
Is Iceland.
Maybe we
Is
should all go
Iceland.
back there.
Let's go
Have a
back.
streaking party.
A streaking
back that way.
conference in
yes,
Iceland.
a streaking conference in
Little
Iceland.
cold.
You're all invited when we get there.
Yeah.
Yes. We'll have a streaking conference in Iceland. That'll be great. Is that a goal? That would be a goal.
That would be a goal.
And then
Not a
Tahiti
streak.
and then Bali. So Bali was filming for a swimwear company to get footage so that they could send it to REI to be in
So
their
was that
stores.
another paid gig?
Oh,
was
wow.
that one or was that
that
a trade
one was
gig?
a trade as well.
Oh, that was a trade
Yeah,
gig
so that was
too.
a friend of mine who owned the company.
Okay.
And so they're a really successful swimwear called Nani Swimwear, and they create swimwear for women.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so I was filming in Bali and traded, and it was great.
Wow.
So that leads us to, when did we see each other again? So I had known Talan. We were in the same town for a long time. Our family had grown up with his family and everything else. And so were you at the end of all those trips when we met at the friend's wedding reception?
Yep. So I started to shift my focus from video to doing more so social media management and strategy.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I knew the content creation side. I wanted to learn the marketing and advertising side. So I started to put that stuff on the back burner, and I was contacted by a mutual friend of ours to film
Yeah.
their daughter's wedding.
Yeah.
And so at that wedding, I saw
then we
you,
came
and I
to
haven't
the
seen
And
you
by the
since
way,
then.
Dan, one of our great, fantastic fans out there, as well as his wife, Allison.
Yes.
We love
Shout
you guys.
out to
you
you
guys are
guys.
fantastic. Anyway, they reached out to Talan and said,
Will you film our daughter's wedding? I said I'd love to.
yeah.
And so during that,
And you're still doing some filming.
some
Yeah.
video,
Yeah.
not nearly as much as I've done before.
Right.
Because I was trying to do a different route. I wanted to be well-rounded,
Right.
not just in one area.
Not just one.
Right.
Yeah. And I realized that when I was dating Cami at the time, I realized I didn't want to travel and be away.
Cami is his now wife.
Yeah. I didn't want to be away all the time. I realized
Right.
that content creation wasn't.
And we were sitting at the table at a reception, totally 100%. We hadn't seen each other, hadn't talked with each other. We were sitting down, and how did streaking come up? Do you remember?
I think I asked what you were doing.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Probably like,
what's
what you guys
new?
been
I
up
haven't
to?
seen you in so long. What are
You're
you
like,
up
what are you
to?"
guys doing?
Yeah.
We're
And
like, we're writing a book.
I don't know if we even started with that. We're like, well, we do streaking.
And immediately, when you hear that,
Yeah.
it piques your interest of what
What are
kind
you
of
guys
streaking
doing?
are you doing?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Which we are, one of the goals that we do have, this is a goal, is to redefine the word streaking. We know,
Yes.
what were we talking about this morning?
When we search streaking on Google and the Urban Dictionary definition is not number one, and streaking the definition of being consistent in your life is number one, that's when we've made it.
That's when I feel like that to me will be a rival.
A proud day.
Like when we think of apple, we don't think of the fruit.
No, we don't.
That's what
a
streaking
very
will
good
be.
point.
Yes.
That is very good. That is what we want.
That's what
because
we want.
honestly, when you look at streaking, so the subtitle of the book is the simple practice of conscious, consistent action that leads to life-changing results. That's the subtitle. And I mean, that captures a little bit of it, but it's significant. So when we started talking with you about streaking, what was it that piqued your interest? Why did you all of a sudden, and we've talked a little bit about this, but at that moment, what was it that you're like,
I thought there was something to it because of the laughably simple. Like
Mm-hmm.
we always strive to do things that are big and beautiful and we can show off to other people. That's just a natural thing that humans want to do.
right?
It was that you were excited that you flossed for 1,600 plus days. And why you decided to create a streak is because it would help your oral hygiene that you really wanted to be better at.
Right.
And I was like, okay, so this can be applied to anything I want to be better at or who I want to be in the future. And to me, that was a concept that I don't think I've ever heard before.
And it was a concept that I had never even thought of. And it was divine providence that it actually this meeting was divine providence between Jamie and I and you.
We had 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was filming that day. I was working.
You were working.
It was
Yep.
the luncheon, so there was 10 minutes to eat, and I happened to have a seat at your table.
Yep.
And then since before then, I haven't seen you in years. And then after, until this point, I haven't seen you.
Right.
Like everything's been over email or video. So it was.
It was that moment. And we do believe absolutely in divine providence, that the Lord puts us together in different ways.
Yep.
And that would
There
be
is
it,
an
wouldn't it?
orchestrated thing. Yeah. I remember talking to you and you were trying to understand this. You're like, okay, so if I want to eat, but like I eat out a lot. So would I set a streak to not eat out as much? And it was great because I was like, well, actually the don't streaks we found don't work.
Well, because I've tried not to eat out.
Right.
And so we're going to be creating a video about time displacement and how to get rid of things, you have to add positive things
Yes.
into your life.
Yeah.
That is an excellent one. Yeah, we're going to
So
be
we
looking
talked
at that.
about, we brainstormed
Yeah.
at that table.
And
what
that
would be
idea
a
to
good
me
streak.
made complete sense. I was like, this is why it's never worked before.
Right.
Is because instead of taking something away, I've never added positive things like eating a carrot
Right.
before bed instead of McDonald's cheese.
Instead of
like,
it, yes.
you know.
Right.
And so since
Exactly.
then, I've done a lot better with the just applying this
Applying
streaking
the
concepts.
displacement and the
Yeah.
concepts.
And we are out of time, believe it or not.
Because we have traveled the
we've
world
traveled the world and
in
everywhere
our
else.
20 minutes.
What we're going to talk about, though, is Talan has a really neat experience from applying this professionally. But just before we finish, just a shout out to Dave and the developers for the app. I mean, those guys have been
Been
at it,
working nonstop.
fantastic. Everyone, if you haven't had a chance, go out, order the book. It's worth every penny you spend on it. Get the app. The subscription is worth every penny you spend on it. If you'd like to share with us your streaking story, please do so at either Jeffrey, Jeffery, at streakingmastery.com.
Jamie at streakingmastery.com.
Talon at streakingmastery.com.
All right, until we talk with you again, keep
Become a
streaking.
better you. It's the small and simple things that make you grow into what you're hoping. You're in a hurry, don't even worry. It's too simple not to do. It's the little things that make a better you. A better you.